if you want to discuss. I need to cover this. Okay, challenge exercise 6. The first question that I did was with integers. So it's nothing very, very difficult, but you just need to understand whether it's for loop or while loop. It iterates, it goes on and on and on, and it will come to a stop when you have a terminating condition. For loop, it is in this manner. We introduce range to you. So range will have a start, stop, and step. So in this case, if you have two numbers, the first number will be the starting number, which is inclusive. And the second number will be a number that is not inclusive. So if you want to sum the square of integers from 1 to 100, you need to end off with 101. You cannot end off with 100. You need to plus 1 to it. Okay. Now, for the next part that I want to show you is for strings operations. You can iterate through the strings, meaning to say, if let's say I have a string 2, you can see how. String 2, if I call it hello world, which is what you are very familiar with, hello world, I'm able to print, let's say, for example, if you remember, print, I want to print from, let's say, string 2, sorry, print string 2, then I want to print from start number, which is 0. I just blank it, then I just add a colon. I want to print all the way to the end, and I want to print backwards -1 in this manner. This is strings operations, indexing. You need to know this because this is everywhere. So if you run this particular print statement, string 200, but it's syntax. Sorry, I have a double equal sign here. So we can do this, but we can also use a loop to print this. So meaning, if I still have string 2, right? I'll just copy it down. If I have string 2, I can loop through using a for loop, saying that for the char in range, and what kind of range should I use? We can use indexing from where to where. I can use length of string as a terminating condition. So I can use, let's say, for example, length of the string 2, because I want to print backwards, right? So length of the string 2 will be a particular number here, this particular string. And I need to subtract by 1, right? Because these numbers here, the indexing, right? H is 0, E is 1. So if I have the length of string, it means that the index of the characters inside this string is always 1 less than the length of string. You get what I'm trying to say, right? So it's length of string, subtract 1. So if let's say I have 10, so I will start off with 9, index 9. And this is not indexing, this is not strings indexing, this is range. So if you compare with range function, right, this is in round bracket. So it is not square bracket. Square brackets is used for string indexing, like just now what I showed you here. You use comma. Okay, comma, and then you can go all the way to -1. I end off at -1. Let's see, -1. Then Say again. Let me see. No, because I wanted the range. The range. Let me complete this one first. For character in range, length of string, but this is the negative something, so it's here. It's actually here. Because this is -1, right? So this is -1. So if the length of string is, let's say, 10, then this will be -9. So where do I want to end? Length of string, I start from here, but I don't want to start from here. If you want, you can start from -1. You see, -1, you can start from here, then you end off at this. -1. You try it first. You try it first. Since you cannot understand mine, then you do it first. Print backwards. You're using for loop. When you use for loop, the char here during the first iteration is 0. This is not enough. You need more things. This is not enough. Because you say you cannot understand what I'm doing, so you do this. Start, stop, step. Start from a particular index, then you stop with a particular index. If you don't run into bugs, then you don't learn. If I tell you, you don't understand, so you have to try. What number works? Remember, I need to print character by character. So print string 2, I need to print the char out. I need to print the char out because every time when the char has a certain index, which is like 0, then this will be string 2, 0. This syntax you understand, right? String is always the particular string and then followed by a square parenthesis. The square parenthesis inside is a particular number. That number there refers to the string index of this particular string 2. the print statement won't be wrong. So now is whether what's your range, like if you are going to use the length of string. So if I put length of string like that, would you get the same printout as hello world printed in reverse? I'm trying to achieve the same thing, just in a different form. If you run this, you will get this. So how to change? Because length of string -1 only tells you what is this part here, right? It's until here. Length of string, subtract away 1 gives you this. But it's not inclusive of this. That's why the printout is only until hello world. How to reverse it? If I don't use -1, I'll get hello world lah. So how to reverse this? Suggestion? Questions can be asked in this manner. That means I want you to print the reverse, but of course it won't be so easy. It's not so straightforward one. How to reverse it? Index 11. 11, where are you? Index 11, where are you? Who is index 11? Eleven not here. 这么巧 Someone went back. Modify from this code. How to print it? Reverse. Start stop step. You're still using start stop step. Okay, you want to contribute? Like, where's the negative one? After the string 2, comma, is it? Comma, oops. Comma, -1. Comma, -1. Sorry, say again. Another negative one. Okay, wait, this is string 2. So length of string 2, do you need to subtract 1? Say again. So down here, -1. Why? Why -1? So you start here. 12 -1, stop at 11. Yeah. If you want, you can print the length of string. 12, right? I mean, this step here is just for you to check whether it is. There's no need for you to print out this. So actually in the test, even if you want to have all these uh, commented transition steps, it's okay one. But this shouldn't be part of your program. So when you run it, when you do submission, then this should be commented out. You shouldn't be left it in this manner. Okay, so if you run this, then it will give you this. Now if you look at this, you need to try to understand rather than to do trial and error, length of string 2 minus 1. Length of string 2 just now when we printed out is 12, right? So it starts at 11, index 11, which is here. And it ends with -1 or -1. And then it's going backwards. You know why -1? The second, I mean the rest. Do you all know the stop why -1? No? Because as you go reverse, right, this is index 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right? Correct. But it is not inclusive of the 0. So you need to move one more, which is -1, then the H will be inclusive. If you don't have these, that means if it's just 0, then the H will be missing. So you need to move one more to the left, which is now -1, then you will get the H. Because the ending is the stop, right? The stop is not inclusive. Okay. Is there another way? Is there another way? This one. Is there another way that can serve the same, that can do the same? I still include the length of string 2 here. Modify this such that you will get the same printout. Because there's no one way to do it. This can be another way. So again, because this one you are doing positive index, right? So you can also do negative index. How to do negative index? What do you start with? If you do negative index, the exclamation mark is -1, right? So you can start off with -1. Then this H will be what? If you just go by counting, -1, -2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? -12. But you cannot have -12. You need to have -13, right? So length of string is always positive. So you need to put a negative in front. Then you subtract 1 again. And then you go backwards, which is a -1. So you will also get the same. So you can either do the positive index way or you can do the negative index way. You need to be very clear of these. You'll be tested over and over again. Okay? I'm just using negative index because I begin from -1. This one I'm using positive index because it is positive length of string. For challenge exercise 8, I made it optional. because you'll be only learning this binomial in Set 4. But if you want to challenge yourself, by all means, please go ahead. The description is there, but I will not go through lah. This one I will go through. And because of this, all the elections and stuff, then I also my time is also shortened. So I'm going into 2.4, the comparison between for loop and while loop. Okay. 7. Oh, okay. Okay, palindrome is, I think we have done this before, like, palindrome. Without using string slicing operations. The last time we used string slicing operation, that means we use string indexing. We now want to implement a function, palindrome, and then you see this para one, right? So this para one here means that you can change into a word that you find more meaning in. Okay, so after that means using for loop, you are using for loop now, not using string slicing operations. You'll check whether the string is a palindrome. And then when you have a sample output for print palindrome radar, then you should give you true. Or I added 2 more. I added mum and planet. So it should be true, true, false. 对吧? True, true, and false, right? Okay, so if you want to create a function, it is def define. This function here, we want it to be called palindrome. And then if you want, you can change it to word. That means there's no need for you to use spec the para one. The para one just basically tells you that it's a parameter. So you can use a word of your choice so that it makes more sense, it has more meaning when you read the codes. So you define palindrome and then you can put a word inside. So this word is like a variable already or parameter. So what we want to do is we want to check whether the forward and the backward is the same, correct? So we need to create a new string in which we can store the new word. Because you have to, just now when we did this challenge exercise 6, right? The purpose of these two is to help you to understand that, or now if I want to have from the original string, if I want to print backwards, I can use either this or this. So we will not waste time. We will just copy this code over to challenge exercise 7. Okay, so meaning to say, if I were to define this particular word, right, I need to have a new word and I need to open up a new string, empty string, just to store this new word. Okay, then I will use, it depends on which one you like. I prefer this one. Also, I will do this. I will copy this. The first one that deals with the positive indexing. I will bring it downwards here. So for char in range, then I'm going to use length. It's not string 2 now. It is length of the word. Okay, the length of the word. So this word here is radar, mum, or planet. Also, the radar, mum, and planet, they are the words that are supposed to be here for us to check. Okay, so after this, after you get a print word, I need to have a new word because I need to pull out the character by character one by one, right? So the new word I will plus equal because it's new word equals to new word plus. So I'm printing from left to right. So plus equals to the word. And I need to store character by character, right? So because this is char, this char is always changing. So the word char will be inside here. This one, do you understand? For character in range, so I'm going into, let's say, for example, use radar as an example. I pull the R here, then I put it in the first position. Then the next one, I go to A, I put it in the next position on the right-hand side of the R. So when that happens, I need to return new word. Now, because if you look at my word here, some are uppercase, some are lowercase. So I need to change everything to either uppercase or lowercase to do comparison. Cha is character, the short for character. Yeah. You can have RT also if you want, like rating. So rating is always changing. So doesn't make sense, right? So that's why I use cha, because cha represents the character in the word. The character in the word. So by the character always changes. Yes. This one. Because I'm using from the word, I'm going to pick out the word. Let's say, for example, this is word, right? This word here refers to this. This word here refers to either this, or this. Yes. The char is the index. So it's the index of the word, not the index of the char. The char is always changing. So when this char here is 0, that means it's performing the first loop. Char is 0, then this is word 0, the 0 index. Okay, so coming back to this new word, right, because after I place everything like radar, so you can imagine that it is small letter R, small letter A, small letter D, small letter A, then capital letter R, right? So I need to change everything either to uppercase or lowercase. So new word dot lower, I will change this to a dot lower. That means I want everything to be in lowercase. And this must be the same because I'm trying to see whether they are in comparison, whether it is correct or not. So the word, I must also dot lower so that I can do an equal comparison. If I were to comment out these last two, and I just do this, so it will just return whether this statement, this comparison, whether it's true or false. If I uncomment the last two steps, mum will be true, planet will be false. So after I run this program, then it will give you true, and false. If you realize when I call the driver code, right, the driver code is print palindrome radar. Palindrome radar calls out the function, calls this particular function palindrome word. So to better understand how this is being called, please go back to Python Tutor and visualize the code for yourself. Can you understand? You just need to have the flow. Open up this empty string. Then you need to store the new word in an empty string. And then you need to form the new word by pulling out the characters in the word and then place it in that order in reverse because you are pulling the last character first, right? Of course, it will be more difficult if it's just if it's a phrase or a sentence, but we're just focusing on words itself. So we don't need to consider spaces, etc. Because if it's a phrase, then or sentence, you have spaces. You need to ignore the spaces. Ignore the space, and then you pull the next character and place it beside it. Okay. Your test questions is not limited to only examples that I give them. So you need to know how to apply it. Okay, can I move on? Okay, next. Comparison between for loop and while loop. While loop is more flexible, but a while loop has this tendency of going into an infinite loop. I mean, sometimes students always they like to use while loop, but once in a while they might forget the terminating condition. So for while loop, right, uh, it can be used for unknown number of times. That means we do not know how many times, but it is good that we only need to set a terminating condition, and then it will just run for the infinite number of times that is required now. On the other hand, if we try to use for loops, usually if you look at the codes just now that I coded, right? And then usually I depend on the length of the word or the length of the string. So it must be known. If you do not know, then you can only use length of something to know what is the length of that particular word in order to stop it as a terminating condition. So if you look at the two examples here, right? W print basically is the while loop print. The F print is the for loop print. If you look at this particular code, we define this particular while loop print with a parameter n. And if we start number from 0, and if you look at this terminating condition, while number is less than or equals to n. So it only stops when we have this n. So it can be 10, it can be 100. So only when people specify this number, right, then it will stop. Okay, but for loop, when we use range, it is in the range of this number, but usually these numbers are not that big. While loop you more useful for bigger numbers in that sense lah. So if I try to run this, it will give me 0 to 10. I believe you understand what this means. Num equals 0, while n is less than or equals to n. You print num n equal to space means that it's printing 0, then 1, 2, 3, all the way until 10. But you need to add 1 to it, you realize. So the components of the while loop is always you must have a starting number. There must be a terminating condition. And you need to add 1, or you need to add to increase the number. So there are these 3 important things in a while loop, characteristics that you need to take note of. But for for loop, right, you don't need to. You realize that there's no need for you to add 1 to it, because the fact of the matter is for num in range, this num, right, increases unless you tell it how much to increase in the start-stop step. That means in the range, right, you can define how many numbers to skip. If it's 2, then in every 2 numbers, then it will pull out. Also, if you run this, it will give you the same printout. So with the same set of output, you can do it using while loop, or you can do it using for loop. Okay, in some questions, we will force you to use a particular loop. So let's say, for example, this one, I can say that by using a while loop. So you need to use while loop. You cannot use for loop. 你就没有办法了。So you need to know both. Okay, nested loop is slightly more challenging, because nested loop, you need to visualize that there's row and column. There's row and columns. So if you look at this particular code, right, I explain slowly. This nested loop, you will not be tested, but you need to know this also, because in the later parts, you need to, I mean, at least for this one, you need to see that there's a kind of pattern that can be generated. So for nested loops, it is important, okay, in the later parts. So nested loop is a loop within a loop and an inner loop within the body of an outer loop. So if you look at this code, outer equal to 0, or outer, this basically is called the outer loop. So if you go inside, if you set a particular loop, outer is less than 3, means that if you just pertain to this outer loop, it will do less than 3. That means 0, 1, 2. It will not go to 3. Okay. Then there's an inner loop. Once you go into the using the outer loop, then inside this outer loop, there's an inner loop. Okay. So in the inner loop, what does it do? It does inner less than 3 also, meaning 0, 1, and 2. Okay, inner 0, 1, and 2. And then if you look at this while loop is together. It is one block. Because these two tabs are within this while loop. So these 3 lines it belongs together. In the inner loop, what does it do? It do inner n equal to empty string, then inner plus equal to 1. So the inner keeps increasing by 1. So 0, then it becomes 1, becomes 2. After it finishes the inner loop, then it jumps out of the inner loop, it goes to the outer loop. That means to say, when outer less than 3, for example, when outer is 0, inner is 0, you print outer 0, 对吗? It's still 0. Then it goes inside an inner loop. While inner is less than 3, inner is 0. Correct? Still 0. Print inner, which is also 0. Increase plus 1, plus equals to 1. Then it goes back into here, still less than 3, so 0, 1. 0, 1. Print, that means 0, 1 is printed, plus 1, it becomes 2. Goes back into the inner loop again. Less than 3, yes. So I print the 2 out, plus 1, 3. Right? Less than 3, eh? No more. So if you realize, right, it's 0, 1, 2 in the first line. You get what I'm trying to say? And this is when the outer loop is 0. When outer loop is 0, I print out 0, 1, 2. Finish already, right? Then I jump out, the outer increased by 1. So now the outer is 1. Go out again, outer loop. So now go inside the inner again. Then you'll perform 3 times again. So while it's 1, then you'll print 0, 1, 2 again. Jump out of it, go back to the outer. Now it's 2. Go in, then print 0, 1, 2 again. Jump out, then now it's 3. Oh, don't have any more. Then it stops. So if you expect this printout, right, that means for every outer number, outer is 0, you got 0, 1, 2. Outer is 1, 0, 1, 2. Outer is 2, 0, 1, 2. So if you try to run this, this is what you're going to get on. Print outer equal to 0, then this one you print, you have to print this in the next line. Print outer here. Outer one. So I'm printing the outer. That means is when it's 0, then you go in here. That's why this print here is this line. Print outer. I'm printing the outer. The outer equal to 0 is the global value. It's outside of the while loop. The final print is just the next line. If you don't have this, you'll just be like that. Just now was outer equals 0, right? Then 0, 1, 2. Then if you don't have this outer doesn't go to the next line. You don't have these prints already. If you don't have this print statement here, it doesn't go to the next line. So for better formatting, the print. Actually, this was also mentioned inside the print one of the chapters. Up to you. Okay, like that. It's just basically print this, which is like a none, to the next line. It prints to the next line, a new line. This is while loop. For loop does the same thing, but you find that for loop is shorter. While outer in range, then you just need to decide how many numbers, how many times to loop. 3 means that you have to loop 0, 1, and 2. Then you also print outer because this when it's outer, which is 0, this outer changes for outer in range. So this outer changes. Okay, and then inner, you'll do 0, 1, 2. So when is this 0, 0, 1, 2? When it's 1, 0, 1, 2. When it's 2, 0, 1, 2, and then it doesn't go to 3. It is not inclusive of 3. So you still have the same printout. Okay. I will do the patterns in the next lesson. I'll do the patterns in the next lesson. This printing to a square, I think this one is much more fun. So for Wednesday's lesson, right, please focus on your revision. I will be uploading 2023 common test 2 by today, and I'm going to give you the solution straight away. Because some of you, I believe that you all have done your revision, so straight away you can do your revision now. Okay. Something to note, it will not be totally the same as what you see in common test last year and the year before, but it's a good practice. Okay. If you have paid attention to my lesson, you will know what to focus on because I mentioned before. Okay, so anything you can, I'm still contactable by either email. Chairperson knows my number. So if anything that's urgent, then you can text me on Wednesday. Anyway, the first half of the day I'll be in school. Okay, thank you, class.